Okay, 6th period. This seems to work better, so we're going to try it again today. We are continuing Standard SS 8H11, Evaluate the Role of Georgia in the Modern Civil Rights Movement. And your learning target, by the end of class today, you can describe the role of the individuals Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis and the group SNCC, also known as SNCC. Okay, so Martin Luther King Jr., you know his name, you've heard his name plenty of times before. He is a civil rights leader from the modern civil rights era. He was born here in Atlanta. He was a pastor. He became kind of the official spokesperson for the modern civil rights movement because of his belief in peaceful protests and his stand against violence. He didn't want any fighting, anything to provoke anyone to think anything less of this movement that he was pushing through. He simply wanted equality. He wanted civil rights for everyone, and he established this through sit-ins, marches, protests, peaceful, non-violent, all right? This here is a sit-in. This gentleman here, that's all he's doing. He might have a book or a newspaper there that he's reading, while all these other gentlemen around him are calling him names or saying inappropriate things. He's just sitting there. He's just trying to prove a point that he deserves to sit there as much as they do. He has the right to sit at a lunch counter and to be served. That segregation is not right. Okay? If you are going to the Civil Rights Museum this spring for your field trip, this is actually an event you can take part in. There's a counter there where you sit on the stool. You wear headphones to hear the kinds of things that people would say. The stool moves, so you know what it's like when they were pushing and shoving, because despite this gentleman just sitting there, at some points, other people that were upset about it would start pushing and shoving and hitting. So he is being nonviolent, but that doesn't mean that the white people stayed nonviolent. Okay? Same deal here. You can see these ladies are just sitting at the counter, and this African American black lady is being supported by two other white civil rights activists, and so they're all being treated badly. They've had salt or sugar dumped on them. Looks like he's dumping sugar or water, all sorts of things, all sorts of inappropriate, inhumane ways to treat other human beings, okay? And then we have a protest march, all right? You can see right here in the middle, Martin Luther King Jr., his wife, Coretta Scott King, maybe their children. They're walking, they're singing spiritual songs, they're keeping their spirits up. They're just trying to prove a point, to bring attention to the fact that everybody deserves equal rights. Okay, and here we've got, let me move me out of the way. We've got protesters carrying signs, marching along, not saying anything mean, they're just marching along, asking for equal rights. Okay, that's what these people, but that didn't stop the cops from sicking them with attack dogs, arresting them. So now these people have criminal records simply because they want to protest. And this is what Martin Luther King Jr. believed in, that if they just kept the course, if they stayed on this path, that they kept peacefully bringing attention to this issue, that something would happen, that change would come about. Okay, then we also have John Lewis. He is a contemporary of Martin Luther King Jr. See, here's John Lewis, and here's Martin Luther King Jr. He was very active in the civil rights movement. He was a member of SNCC. We'll talk about that next. He was one of the speakers at the March on Washington, and he led 600 marchers in Selma, Alabama. They tried to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge just to demonstrate, just to say this is not fair, this is not right, this is not how we should be treated as American citizens. And that is when the police unleashed all sorts of brutality. They were beaten, they were attacked by dogs. It was terrible. But he didn't give up. He continued to push on and fight towards the goal and peacefully bring attention to it. And he today serves in the U.S. House of Representatives for the state of Georgia. Okay? And your group that you need to know about, SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. This was made up of high school and college-age kids. So people not a whole lot older than you guys, okay? They encouraged other young people, other high school and college-age kids to join the fight for civil rights. by using nonviolence and peaceful protests, okay? Not fighting, not rioting, nonviolence. I'm hoping you're picking up on a theme here. They helped plan the Albany movement and the March on Washington, which you'll learn about next week. So these young people, they play a large part in the civil rights movement. They, as you saw in the pictures, they participate in the sit-ins. They do the freedom rides. That's a group of civil rights activists. They rode around on buses and did these sit-ins in different places and brought attention to different cities in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi where rights were being denied, okay? You can see them here. They're just walking along, carrying their American flag because they're American citizens and they deserve every single right that other American citizens receive. And we've got here, they're walking in a circle. They're probably boycotting a local store because they're not serving anyone of African American or black customers are not welcome. And this young lady who was participating in so this is how Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and SNCC were a significant part of the civil rights movement here in Georgia.